got yours on? Is it working?
Yeah, the light is
Is
showing.
it working?
I don't know.
But then again, I'm a patient person.
21%.
Yeah. Yeah.
On a lot though.
I read all that stuff. You're not against that right there, are you?
Not against what?
You're not against that development right there, are you?
What, this?
Yeah.
If you read it, you can
I
tell
read
I'm
that
in favor
letter.
of it.
I thought you
Duh.
were. But they people,
I have
I've asked for a special citizens comment, 15 days, nothing but this. Because only Oakland can commit tonight, and they can't comment on it to the second reading.
That's right.
So if we have this, pass it, and then before the second one, we can have a meeting with all of them. Nothing on the agenda but that.
Well, the problem is for this,
Before
it's got to
the
be
second
advertised. I've got to get it advertised in the
reading.
paper.
15 days from next Wednesday.
That is, I actually got to get it in this Friday. You've got to make a decision tonight.
Oh, we're
I've got to
going
get it
to.
in the paper.
If I could have your attention a minute, please, before we start the meeting, I want to make a few comments. Number one, the Windy Ridge development, which I'm assuming a lot of you are here for. Tonight, all we will do is have the first hearing on it, the first reading of it. The first reading establishes the right to have a public hearing. We will schedule a public hearing on this particular development on November 15th, and we will schedule it in a facility large enough to handle the crowd. There will be no public comment tonight. There will be no vote other than the procedure to move it to a public hearing. So if that's the only reason you're here tonight, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave and let us not have to enforce the fire code. If you want to stay, you're welcome. Now you can laugh at me all you want, folks. I'm trying to do my job. And I'm trying to be honest with you. And I don't think it's funny. I want to follow the law and do the right thing. And that's what I'm trying to do up here. If you want to talk, the public meeting will be on the 15th, and that's when we'll have it. And I promise you, I'll stay up here and listen to everybody talk on the 15th.
Mike Brown, I'll be the first to go because I appreciate what you said. It saves me sitting here. I'll see you on the 15th.
Thank you, sir.
But I wish you would do that in October after the election.
And
Not
October,
before because it gives people a bad feeling. Other than that, I'll see you on the 15th.
I'll see you anytime you want to see me, sir. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
sir, the law is that it has to be published for 15 days, so since our paper don't come out publication till next Wednesday, it has to be at least 15 days from that publication date is why it can't be in.
Okay, Chief, I've said my piece and I've asked them to consider what I said. Not any of them are leaving much, so you'll just have to measure the room and enforce the fire code.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great evening, all of you.
Yeah.
And we'll see you on the 15th.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we're gonna have to do is, if you guys can just move back and keep this area clear. I'm gonna actually move these signs because we have to have an exit straight through to this. This area here, from here back are fine. People in the hall, we're gonna have to have from the doors this way clear. Now, you can have some people stand against a horseshoe against the wall here. Guys, if something happens, I think you've seen it in the past what happens when people panic. We're not gonna get into that situation
call the meeting to order. As we follow our procedure we do every month, we'll ask you to stand for the pledge and prayer. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Cates.
Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We just thank you for the opportunity we have to serve on this board, Lord. And I just pray for knowledge and wisdom to lead us in the right direction, make the right decisions. And we just thank you so much for our citizens. We thank you for our employees, Lord. I pray you just lay a hand upon each one of them and protect them in a special way. Lord, we just thank you for all the blessings you give us each day. Help us control ourselves at these meetings, Lord, and conduct it as we should and move our town forward in the right directions. I pray and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Vaughn, we have a quorum, the only person being absent being Alderman Hahn. Gentlemen, I'll ask you to look at the agenda. And once we don't have any additions or deletions, do we have any additions, Mr. J?
Mayor and gentlemen, I have 3 items that I'd like to add to the agenda. The first is item 15D, which is resolution 22-144. On your podium tonight is a substitution for the resolution that was in your packet. This is related to the American Rescue Plan funds. That's the first, Mayor. Second is our lease agreement with Xerox for the copiers. We apologize for bringing that up as a non-agenda item, but we've been going back and forth, and we need to ask your consideration of that tonight. Yvonne will present that item. And then last but not least, we can vote on it later, but we're asking for a special meeting on Monday, October 31st at 5 p.m. There would be 1 or 2 items, and it would be specifically related to the ARPA funding and some of the procedures we have to go through.
On Halloween.
I suggested 5 o'clock. We could do it earlier.
Do it earlier. I got candy at the house.
You left to eat it, you can't give it up.
No kidding.
Well, I'm 4 o'clock.
Is everybody okay with 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
On the 31st?
Yes.
Okay, well.
4 o'clock.
Set it at 4 o'clock on the 31st, Mr. J. Okay. Anything else? Any other? Okay, I'll take a motion when you're ready.
Make motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Have a motion, Vice Mayor Sutton, to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Cates. All in favor? Any opposed? I'll ask you to review for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting for September 15th. I'll take a motion when you're ready.
Make a motion here.
Have a motion, Mr. Cates, to approve. Have a second. Have a second, Mr. Fisher. All in favor? Any opposed? At this point in our meeting, we take citizen comments. The comments are open for any citizen of Oakland to be heard on items and concerns not included on this agenda. Citizens are able to be recognized by the chair and come to the front of the room before speaking. Each speaker shall state their name and address for the record. The mayor and board of aldermen shall make no decision or consideration of action of citizen comments, except to refer to the city manager for administrative consideration or to schedule a matter for a later mayor and board meeting. Speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes and will have only one topic. Having said that, anybody wish to address the board?
Can I say something first?
Okay, I'm gonna hold you just a second. Mr. Fisher wishes to make a comment.
Is the streaming and all that working?
It is up right now. Yes, sir.
Good deal, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, now
All right.
proceed.
Do we have anybody wish to make a comment? I'll recognize Mr. Pinky first, and young lady, you'll be next.
Pink Knight, 315 Terry Road. It does kind of address an item that is on the agenda, but it is specifically my topic 200 lots on one entrance. They don't have but one entrance, so if any of the houses up front catch on fire, everybody behind them will have to wait. Hopefully, the fire department can put it out in about 5 minutes, and it's not a big deal, but you don't know. Just like y'all to consider that before we move forward. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Catan, Ed, you want to comment on that, please? So we'll get Mr. Pinckey an answer right now.
It's not gonna be a yes or no answer, it's a difficult one.
Okay,
I believe he's talking about the Cross Creek development agreement that's on the agenda tonight.
okay,
That project is a several-year-old project. It was approved. The main access is Laurel Street, with the anticipation, I think, in the future, that Laurel Street would extend and go across Black Ankle Creek. I believe there is a condition, I just was notified earlier that when the preliminary plat was approved, that if they had lots that were greater than, after the phase, they would need to have a second access point. I've not been able to verify that. I just got recent notice of that. So my recommendation would be, with that being said, that you would continue that item so that we would have a chance, so I would have a chance to be able to do the research for it. The fire department and myself have both looked at the property and the way that we are administering these existing plats and looking at the fire code standard, that if you have a development and it has greater than 29 lots, you have to have a second point of access. Looking at Laurel Street coming south, we've been able to look at it and analyze it and say, basically, this phase could meet that standard. But the problem is, it was approved prior to me, it was approved several years ago, and it exceeded that subdivision standard. So there's a little bit, there's some area that we need to look at.
Okay.
So that would be my recommendation at this point.
Could we make a motion to,
wait just a minute. Okay, I'm gonna get Mr. Sutton first and then Mr. Case.
It's an agenda item, is that correct?
It is.
I say we talk about it when it comes up on the
Okay.
agenda.
okay. I was just gonna make a motion, could we make a motion to move it up now, since it was already discussed, and just get it out of the way and table it till next month?
We can do
I
that.
have no objections to that.
It is agenda item 15C. C is in Charlie.
Your motion to move 15C to the front of the agenda, Mr. Case?
Yes, sir, and I make a motion to table it.
Okay. Have a motion for Mr. Case, do I have a second?
I wanted to ask a question. I want to understand where this is, and just so I can be clear. Is this on the back side where those 0 lot line houses are?
It would be just north of where, when you're heading down Laurel Street, you make the curve, and then you have, I think, Joseph Street. It's just to the north, and it'd be 14 lots in that area.
Is there a stub going into those lots now?
There's two.
There's
With
2
this
stubs.
particular development, it will stub on Laurel Street. The problem is until Laurel Street is extended to the south or west, the only way that you can get there is on the northern part of Laurel Street coming south. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
As you bend around the curve.
but it is stubbed to that land they're wanting to build those on.
It does have a future stub for that, yes. And they are aware that, if after the next phase, that they would be required to have that second point of access. But I was not aware of this, and I just found this out just right before the
Mayor.
meeting, so.
That's what I'm basing my recommendation is on him.
Okay.
Just for the record, there are 2 stub outs to the south. There's the one on Laurel that you've been discussing. There is one further east that stubs out to the south as well.
I think it'd be fair, Mayor, that you would ask the applicant to also provide comments before you do make a decision.
Okay.
Because I did not have a chance to be able to talk to him before the meeting.
Okay. Is the applicant here?
I have a motion on the table, should I withdraw it?
It wasn't seconded.
Okay.
We're in good shape right now, Mr. Case.
Good evening, my this topic was actually brought up before we submitted it back to the planning commission. This was originally approved back in 2019. We even proceeded with the development agreement at that point. We brought it back to the planning commission a couple of weeks ago because we exceeded the 1-year time slot, and the plat is outdated at that point, so we brought it back through to go through the processes. But during this second approach, contrary to the first one, we did not look at the fire access. We did this time. It was brought to Mr. Ed, and we talked to the fire chief as well. I think they discussed it internally. So we looked at the entrance. If you'll look at the entrance at Work Road, it is divided. So there's 2 points of ingress, egress there. And both of those lanes are more than 20 feet, which meets fire code. Internal to the subdivision, as you come up Cross Creek Drive and Laurel Street, there's still 2 points for an emergency vehicle to enter the property and then get back out. So there's still safety there. And you can come down Laurel Street, go up Acadia Circle, there's another access point, and then all the way back through this point. So we deemed it at that point that there was enough points of ingress, egress to safely get a vehicle in and out. There's also not any large trees in this development to impact ingress, egress. So that's why we continue. That's why we're permitted to continue.
Okay,
I'll second Mr. Cate's motion.
I have a second to Mr. Cate's motion to table. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we will table that. Ed, would you please, we'll get with the developer and look at it again and then bring it back to us, please? All right. Any other, I see I had a young lady that wanted to address us. Yes, ma'am. State your name, please, and your address.
My name is Deidre Long, and I live at 100 Countrywood Lane.
Okay.
As a resident of Oakland, I am frustrated with our bulk pickup situation. I am here to ask your help to a solution, and that I hope it will be communicated with all the residents. I wish to bring this to your attention because I have gotten different answers from practically each person I've talked to. Nor am I the first person to bring this to your attention. Someone else complained about needing bulk pickup just last month at this meeting. My house is on over half an acre with 30+ trees. My husband and I trimmed 2 overgrown trees in our front yard that we were afraid would cause damage if we faced another freeze this winter. We set out the branches by the road for pickup and have run into a truckload of issues. When calling City Hall, I was told that Team Waste will pick up yard debris, but it has to be no more than 4 feet long and less than 5 inches thick. When stopping the trash men, I was informed that they will only take yard debris in bags and will only take up to 3 bags. When calling City Hall again about having a truck come out for bulk pickup, I was told the city does not have a truck, nor will the city probably have a truck for maybe another 2 years. Whereas an alderman said that the city is getting a boom truck and it may be here as early as this month. The city manager stated similar, but saying that the truck could be sometime maybe early next year. The city manager also stated that the Team Waste will pick up some yard debris with their boom truck and that it should be going through the neighborhood once a week. It's not. When talking to a manager at Team Waste, I was informed that they only sent out the boom truck as a separate paid service. And in the future, I could just call the city of Oakland and they will contact Team Waste to send someone out to estimate the cost for me. I never even heard from you, Mayor. If your head is spinning in circles, so is mine. There's a gap between the trash service and our city service that is a whole boom truck seems to fill. Are we not paying for bulk services? Who exactly is covering it? Everywhere else I've ever lived has had bulk pickup, and it's not fair that cities have restrictions on things like bonfires, but no city resources to pick up yard debris. If I have to put them in small piles for each week, I would do this. But as I walk around my neighborhood, I see that that's not even being picked up. Mine sat out by the street for weeks as I called and emailed and got quotes and tried to figure out what to do. We quit trimming any more trees, and the debris is now sitting in piles in my backyard. We're a family with a baby and a toddler on a single income. If we had hundreds of dollars to spend on getting tree limbs cleared, we wouldn't have done the work of trimming the trees ourselves and hired someone to simply trim and haul away the branches. And ultimately, I feel it unfair to pay a lot of money for something that should be covered by my taxes or payment to a trash company. Please help us keep our community looking nice and establish a resolution for the bulk pickup situation, and then communicate it clearly with all of City Hall, the companies involved, and the residents of Oakland. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, huh?
Mr. Johnson, we've had several complaints on this. Have you got a response here for us tonight?
I do. In the very back of your packet, under supplemental information, you had 3 pages that were excerpted from our current contract with Team Waste. It provides that the curbside collection of rubbish and yard waste not to exceed 6 cubic yards will be picked up the same week of collection. That is what, and then, as the lady indicated, if you want service beyond that, Team Waste will provide it for a fee. Let me clarify one other thing, and she was correct. We ordered a boom truck. The city does not have a boom truck. The city's never had a boom truck in the past. This board authorized the purchase of boom truck about 9 or 10 months ago now. The chassis has been delivered to the factory. The last information we had on the body and the boom, they would be installed on the chassis by the end of November. So we should have the truck probably sometime in December or after the first year. And I don't say this lightly, but you all know the issues that we've had with deliveries of things we purchased. And so I'm very hesitant to sit here and say we're gonna have a boom truck the 1st of December or December 15th. I won't believe it till it's here. The other thing that I have done, and this will be something we need to talk about in December, or November, December, I've asked MTS to give me a sample of their ordinances from other cities on what a city will pick up with a boom truck and what the city won't. For example, we pick up yard waste. Will we pick up old washing machines, refrigerators, things like that? If we do, that cannot be mixed with yard waste. It'll have to be a special pickup. There's all kinds of nuances that I know people don't necessarily want to hear, but we have to work through that. But I am hopeful that within the next 90 to 120 days, we'll be in a position where we can pick up yard waste ourselves and take it to the Fayette County landfill in Somerville.
I've got a question. And this, I don't know if this is the same person, but I talked to a gentleman, and I think it was at the Oakland Oktoberfest. And the problem with the 6 cubic yards is, these people started cleaning up. They probably didn't do that all in the same day. They probably put that much out there the first time that don't get picked up by the contract. So then next weekend they cut some more, and now they have 12 cubic yards out there. And then it still don't get picked up, and they got 18 cubic yards out there. And if they work 4 weekends and it still hadn't, they got 24 cubic that should be picked up. So my question is to Mr. Minor. If this is the contract that they're to pick up 6 cubic yards of yard debris, and they hadn't been picking it up, what can we do? Can we get somebody else to pick it up and bill them? What are we allowed to do on that contract to hold them to their contract? Because they're obviously not picking it up. And if they told her that she needs to call Oakland to schedule a pickup for Team Waste, if we've got is that what our contract says? Or are they supposed to run that once a week and pick up this debris?
That's what the contract says.
That's right. So these.
I see the boom truck just once in my neighborhood.
How long
It was
did you
on
say?
Saturday, and it was somebody else who paid them separately, we believe.
How long did you say that you had that stuff out in your yard?
About a month. Before my husband dragged it all to the backyard.
And did they pick up any of it at any time?
None of it. Like I said, I stopped the trash men off the curb and I said, what can I do to help you guys pick this stuff up? And that's when they told me, well, I'll just pick up only 3 bags full.
If I may, Mayor, if I may address the
Yes.
board, a concern I have is a little different but real. I don't think they're consistent in the service they provide, because I know of other instances where they have picked it up.
I do too.
When it's small, if you will.
If mine's in a bag, I hadn't had anything that ain't, but it won't be picked up when they pick the garbage up, but then they come by
Yes.
later on and they
Yes.
get that.
Yes.
In the bag. But, I mean, it's so many complaints on this that we need to know what we can do if they've breached this contract. Well, can we get somebody else to do their job and bill them, or?
Is yours like this?
We need to review closely that contract in terms of what the remedies are in the event of default. read this contract closely in a long time, but I'm sure there's probably cure provisions in there that they are entitled to with notice. But I'm sure that there's also remedies available to the town if the issue is not cured. There's no question that if they're obligated to do this on a weekly basis, that if you're not doing it, it's just compounding the problem like you described. So, certainly something that.
Mr. Johnson, would you and Mr. Minor please review the contract? Please get with them and let's try to get this solved.
Yes.
And when the city does get a boom truck, who do we contact then to maybe, if the trash company is not willing to do it, who do we contact then?
The boom truck will be the city, it will come through Public Works.
Yes,
if I'm
you
correct. So
could
will
call
contact Public
City
Works.
Hall, the lady that handles solid waste,
Okay.
or you could call Public Works directly.
Yeah, and if there's some way that we can let all the residents know, hey, we
Yeah.
required a boom truck and these are the parameters. So that
But while we're under contract, we shouldn't be doing that if they're under contract to do it.
Yeah.
You know, that,
You brought an issue that we've got to check the contract on, man.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, could I pass this to Ms. Bond, because I'd like to have a copy of this, and you can't see this. Larry, would you give that to her, please? 2 pages, it looks like it's smeared Japanese writing.
Yeah, it is hard to read.
It's a copy of a copy.
I understand, but
Yeah.
I'd like to have a copy of that contract on that, so I know what it is.
Mr. Mayor, can I,
Go ahead.
one other small caveat. When we do acquire this boom
You don't have
truck,
to do it tonight, Bond, I'll pick it up later.
it will not be running 5 days a week. We simply don't have the manpower to do that. It'll probably run either 2 days a week or 3 days a week. But
That's
the
better
vice
than
mayor, vice mayor's comment too, we don't need to be performing a service if we're paying others to do it.
We
Ma'am,
should,
thank you for your time and thank you for your persistence in this and I apologize on behalf of the city for the problems you had and we will try our best to get it solved soon.
If you will, ma'am, if you will call me tomorrow or next week and give me your number and address so I could be back in touch with you. I won't ask you to give it here in the public meeting.
All right, does anybody else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, state your name and your address.
Carolyn Badley, 3170 New Main Road. As I was looking over some of the resolutions, I noticed that there's a subdivision resolution for a New Main Valley, which I live on New Bay Road, I walk it daily as exercise, and I was just concerned about the building. And I had not seen or known of any development, and so I was trying to locate that on the town website to see what that subdivision was about and if I had an agreement for it. And I didn't know if there was a direction to where I could go, if you guys knew where I could look to find that.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Johnson?
It's a 15-lot cul-de-sac subdivision that's been proposed right around the curve south of where the current construction is.
Okay.
And the planning director could give you a
Is that
copy.
along the creek bed?
It's not that far south, no,
Okay,
no.
it's just the one right at the first night?
Yes, yes, but
Okay.
planning director could give you a copy of the plat.
Okay, I know where that one is, and that leads me to the second one, because I walk.
Wait a minute now. You're only allowed to talk about one thing,
Oh, sorry,
okay?
it just had to do with trash.
I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. Be quick, please.
Okay, just the trash along New Main Road is horrific. I do my part to try to pick up as much, but there's everything from beer bottles to jeans and to every Sonic thing there ever was.
I'm sorry to say this, but right where that subdivision ends is the city limits. Everything past that's in the county.
How far it went. Okay, thank you very much.
You have a good day. Thank you. Mr. Chris, if you'll get with Ed there, he'll try to answer your questions on that subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I declare this part of the meeting closed. The mayor has no comments at this time, other than to say that we will have a public meeting. We will have it in a facility that's big enough to handle it, and everybody will get their say.
She don't live in Oakland.
She didn't? All right. All right. That's my comments. Mr. Sutton, you have any comments?
No, sir.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes. I know the subject of this 194 or should I say 196 and 64 issues gonna come up. And there's been a petition that went around, and there was 1,800 and some odd signatories on it. And right now, the number's 1,851 signed the petition, 1,250 signed from this area, some from Memphis, 755 signed from Oakland, 180 was confirmed of exactly where they, but we're still looking at the rest of them, and 256 signed from Eads, Hickory with area. My comment with that was, this room isn't big enough to hold all these people who want to see and speak and talk about it. And as the mayor said, we're gonna have another meeting, but it's gotta be somewhere bigger than this.
I
Much
think my
bigger.
comments said we will
Okay.
find a facility.
And, thank you, I was speaking. But I encourage you to come out and look at that and come listen to what's gonna be said. Because like you said, and like everybody else says, there's some good things about this, but there's some bad things about it. And we all have to come together as a community to make it work for everybody. Okay? That's all I got to say about it.
Okay,
I got a comment about Mr. Fisher's.
okay, Mr.
I would like to see a petition put out with the truth on it. This petition was put out with a bunch of things that wasn't true in it, like infrastructure and different things. I could go on and on about
You're
that
welcome to
petition,
put one out.
what was said. Well, I'm
Put
not
one
the
out.
petition putter outer. I'm the petition reader when people
Okay.
sign it. But I'd also like to see that petition with the people's addresses on it and do it where I can get a good consensus
Well,
of what people feel about the truth of it. And not a bunch of falsehoods and fear tactics in it
here's a
with
petition.
the truth. So whoever likes to put petitions out, put one out with the facts in it, and I would love to see it.
Here's a
I'd love
petition.
to see the consensus on it.
Here's a petition with the
All right, Mr. Fisher, what do you wish to
addresses,
say?
but some people fear that harassment from some government officials, so they do not want their addresses put out anywhere. The names can be put out, which is no problem, but when we have somebody who will harass you, and I've had many people tell me, don't put our names out, because we do not want repercussions.
They're telling the man that's been convicted of for harassing people that they don't want to be harassed.
Real classy,
I don't wanna be around.
Okay,
Real classy.
let me call this back to order here.
classy.
I'm gonna say again, we will have a meeting on the 15th. I'll find the biggest church around here that will let us sit there. And I will sit there, and anybody that lives in Oakland that wants to make a comment can do so. Now, can we go past this, please?
I don't know, ask the,
You
I don't,
need it.
I
Not
don't,
both of
the
you.
public hearing, do they have to live in Oakland to speak at a public hearing, Mr. Meyer?
To speak on an ordinance, of rezone, public hearing is limited to the citizens.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else you wish to say, Mr. Fisher? It's your time.
no.
Okay, Mr. Fisher is through. Mr. Cates?
Yeah, is Mr. Rex here for codes? Do you know right off the top of your head how many inspections, completed houses you did, say, October and the first 15 months, days of this week, this month?
No, sir, I have the last month's,
How much was it last month compared to the month before last?
permits or,
Right,
permits for last month was, for September was 3, August was 22.
okay. How many of those has been final and sold, do you know?
Roughly 30.
Compared to how many last month?
We're averaging 15 to 25 a month, finally. You'll notice right now, it dropped down. It's not because of what's going on with anything.
Just
Selling
economy.
houses.
Economy.
I just took in 7 this morning. So, on an average, we're averaging 26 a month from January to September.
But
26 new homes a month.
but from then on, you don't know if it's dropped any or not?
No idea.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Mr. Duncan, you have anything?
Yes, just want to, update, the senior citizen building on the square.
Doors.
Yes,
Okay, you got an
We're,
answer to that?
we're waiting on the doors. They're supposed to be here by the end of the month, or has it changed again?
I was prepared to call them tomorrow and ask for an update. 2 weeks ago, they said it would be 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, was what the answer was. They're waiting on parts. They wouldn't explain what parts we're waiting on, but that's the update on the front door. We've added gutters, we've added new lights inside and out, to brighten up the facility. I've been down there diligently, caulking and painting, and I contacted the company today to come in and redo the floor. So we're waiting on that estimate, which will be Monday. I'm hoping as soon as the door comes in, we'll be able to reopen.
Okay.
If I may,
Yes,
Mr. Schmidt has spent a great deal of time over the last 2-3 months doing a lot of work inside that building. It is going to look very good when we open it back up.
I got a question I'd like to ask about those lights. Is it something you can do with those outside lights to keep them from being so bright? It blinds you if you come through there early in the morning or late at night.
Well, Mr. Cates, when they were first installed, it was installed during the daytime. We turned them on at night, and we found out that there were some issues. We tilted them way down, and so that's not an issue anymore. And on top of that, we actually have a timer. They're only on from 6 to 10 p.m.
Okay.
That's it.
I knew I come through there at 4 o'clock one morning going to the farm. I almost hit that tree. It just blinded you completely.
That was the first couple of days when we first installed them, and we're trying to get it. Now, we had a couple of people call and say that they were really bright. I saw a couple pictures on Facebook, contacted the electricians, and they came out the next day, and we made the adjustments, and there hasn't been a complaint since.
Okay, thank you.
Sir? All right. That it, Mr. Duncan? Okay. We'll move on then. Any department directors have anything they wish to address the board about tonight? Hearing none, I'll move on from that. Town manager's report. Mr. J.
I'd like to just brief the board, and the citizens are here tonight, very briefly. We'll be conducting a special census at the beginning of 2023. A census form will be mailed to every address within the city of Oakland on January 3rd. We ask that the citizens complete that form and mail them back. Beginning the last week of January, we will start going door to door for those homes that have not voluntarily returned the census. The 2020 census had a population of 8,936 residents. We estimate that the current population of Oakland is probably around 10,200. We receive state shared revenues of approximately $160 per person. So if we can pick up 1,000 people with a certified census, it's worth $160,000 annually every year to the town. What I want to talk to the board about very quickly, there are some legal deadlines. We have to have the census complete by February 28th. Beginning March 1st, an independent third party will come out to Oakland and verify the census data, sampling at least 10% of all addresses. That independent verification has to be submitted to the state by May 15th. If it is accepted by the state, our new population would be effective July 1st of 2023. Ed and I are working, putting everything together on this. Yvonne and Laura and Jenna are helping, and this is going to be a very time-constrained, very intense process for 60 days right after the holidays. But it is very important to the citizens. and to the city. All we will ask is the name, age, and sex of each resident. That's all we're asking. And we need the age for planning purposes, but it's anybody that lives at that address, and we'll have a form, but that's where we are, Mayor.
One of the things that I would add to what Mr. Johnson just said is, we need to know the number of school-aged children in our city. There will come a point in the future when we're gonna have to make some decisions on that. At this time, we cannot petition the county school district to do anything with Oakland Elementary School until we can have some numbers to back up what we're saying. So it's very important that we get accurate information, particularly on school-aged children, everybody. And this is money for the city. It also changes some other dynamics with the federal government. So please, take the time to fill that out and get it back to us. Any other commissioners wish to talk?
Yeah, can we get past this, regular meeting, minutes? It's not even on the agenda.
Okay. You're saying you want them adopted.
It's item 5.
Do what?
It's supposed to be the first thing
Oh.
to come out.
Okay. I'll refer everybody back to the minutes. Apparently, I did not get a vote on the approval of the minutes. So would you please look at the minutes, and I'll take a motion for approval of the minutes of the previous meeting on the 20th.
Make a motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Case.
Thank you.
Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Nothing in the consent agenda. Under old businesses, ordinances on second and final reading, I would declare a public hearing open for the consideration of ordinance 2217, amending the adopted physical budget for 2023 annual budget. Does anybody wish to speak on this? Seeing that nobody wishes to speak, I will declare the public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to hear ordinance 2217?
Motion.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Cates. Mr. Johnson.
There are 2 changes to the adopted budget by this ordinance. The first is to reflect the revenue that the town received from the sale of the old bank building. And that goes to general government buildings, account 921, and that would be used to help defray the expenses for the design of a new city hall police station. The second amendment is to go to the parks special funds, park development, account 931, $250,000. That is related to the Bowers Road project for access to the park, which the board previously approved. Neither one of these authorized new spending. This is getting the money in the right allocation.
The park thing stayed in the park fund, right?
Yes, sir.
Have a motion.
With that, said, make a motion.
Have a motion for Mr. Duncan to approve ordinance 2217. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We move to new business. Have ordinances, consideration of ordinances on first reading. Take a motion to hear ordinance 2218, an order amending the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual budget, providing an effective date, establishing a public hearing date. Have a motion to hear.
Make a motion to hear it.
Have a motion, Mr. Case. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Sutton. All in favor? Mr. J.
Gentlemen, under our policy and procedures, if a purchase order is outstanding as of June 30th, it's canceled. It ends. as you would expect, we have a number of purchase orders that are open as of June 30th. This ordinance takes the monies from the 22 budget for those outstanding purchase orders and reallocates it in 2023. There are no new projects, no new expenditures, anything like this. This is simply a rollover. And one of the easiest examples is the boom truck, $177,000. It was ordered last fiscal year, a purchase order was issued, it was not delivered at June 30th. We need to roll over that money and issue a new purchase order. That's what this ordinance does.
If nothing changes on the money, I'll make a motion to pass it.
Have a motion, Mr. Case, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Fisher, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do I hear a motion to hear ordinance 2219, an open order to amend the salary schedule for the Board of Mayor, Alderman, providing an effective date?
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Duncan, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Sutton, all in favor? Any opposed?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher opposed?
This is to hear, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher opposed. All right, Mr. J.
At your last meeting, staff was asked to review the salary of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and in particular in comparison with some of the area cities. As you know, a board cannot increase the salary for themselves while they're in office. So by doing this ordinance now, it will affect the new board and the subsequent board. What we have drafted here for your review and consideration, that beginning in November of 2024, the mayor's salary shall be $1,200 a month. Beginning in November of 2024, the vice mayor's salary would be $600 a month. Beginning in 2024, the compensation for aldermen elected that year would be $500 per month. The compensation for aldermen elected in November of 2022, their salary shall be $500 per month upon their taking office. This increases the city cost $8,600 a year.
I don't think anybody here is doing it for the money. I think that all you would get if you change it at this point is you would get, you would actually violate the equal work, equal pay. Because there's 3 people be making more than 2 people. And so we have, it's our duty and obligation that we have to, as a board, set the salary for the incoming board. And I'll make a motion to set that salary at the same rate that we have today.
I second that.
Have a motion to leave the salaries the same rate, I have by Mr. Sutton, have a second from Mr. Cates. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Ordinance 2220, an ordinance to amend order number 2205, adopting building codes by reference, providing an effective date. Have a motion to hear?
Motion to hear.
Have a motion from Mr. Case, do I have a second? Have a second from Mr. Fisher. Mr. J, all in favor?
We don't have to, though.
Okay. Mr. J.
This ordinance was requested by Alderman Fisher. A quick history, at the beginning of this year, the board adopted new building codes. Subsequent to that, by ordinance 2209, the board amended some provisions of the new building code related to HVAC testing. In that ordinance, the word exempt, that the city was exempting itself from those provisions. It has been suggested that rather than the word exempt, that the word deleted should be used.
What's staff recommendation?
This was brought up a couple of months ago informally, and the consensus that time was the word exempt worked, that we're exempting ourselves from the enforcement of that provision. At the same time, you know, if saying that we're deleting that reference from our code, you know, I have to defer to the attorney.
Same thing, isn't it?
Well, speaking as an old English major, I think exempt is the stronger word. I don't think that it's going to affect the meaning of the statute by substituting the word delete. I think that exempt is a stronger word to provide the whole purpose of what the ordinance is trying to accomplish.
I'm certainly not gonna pay a lawyer and not take his advice.
All right. Have a motion?
So what we saying, keep it as it is?
I don't think we have to take any
Yes,
action.
take any action, we don't
Any
change.
action.
Can I hear from, Rex?
What, do what, Mr.
Can
Fisher?
I hear from Rex?
Rex, would you step to the podium, please? Mr. Fisher has a question for you.
On this wording, how do you interpret what we're trying to accomplish here?
Well, exempt is in our code book. You exempt from things that you change and do. Deleted, it's the same thing, but the more action is not, you can delete it. That's not an action of the state code.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Hearing no motion, we'll move on. Ordinance 2221. An ordinance to rezone 366 acres, parcel 020.00 on Fayette County tax map 185, located on Highway 64, Highway 196, and Chahoma Road, from general, can't even pronounce it. And family residential, moved from business B2 to family residential R1, to mixed plan development and approval of general development plan. The village is at Windy Ridge, establishing a published hearing date. Have a motion to hear.
Motion to hear it.
Have a motion, have a second.
So moved.
All right. Mr. J, would you like to comment on this, or would you prefer someone else comment?
May I ask Mr. Corton to?
All right.
As you've noted in the introduction, this is a rezoning to mixed-use, to mixed plan development that would involve both residential, commercial, and a portion of industrial. This issue has been debated outside of this forum. I'm not going to add to that. I'll wait until we have the next meeting. The question I do have is that we're looking at November 15th. I need to know a time in order to publish that.
Well, we'll work on that tomorrow. It would be 7 o'clock.
It had to
but
be
we-
7, give everybody a chance to come home from work.
I agree, sir.
That's putting the cart before the horse as well.
But we also got to find a venue.
And I need to know that.
We need to deal with this first.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Compton. I have a motion.
I have some comments on it.
Okay, sir. Comment away.
The first thing I want people and go on the record is this is not a up zone, it's a down zone. So the people are asking for a lesser zoning for this property than what they already have on it. So the misconception is that if this board turns this development down, that they'll be able to ride and look at horses on it for the rest of their life, and there's not gonna be anything on it. That's not the case here. That property is already zoned. It was zoned years ago. Nobody in this room had anything to do with it. And it was zoned with 180 acres of commercial property. It was also zoned, the rest of it, residential. The only reason that this is in front of the board is they're asking for a down zoning of this property to remove 140 acres of commercial property and turn that into residential. They're also asking for it to be a planned development, which is where we want everybody to go in a development. A planned development can be negotiated from the time it starts until the time the development is completed. So it's not something that is not looked after. Not only this board will have the responsibility of doing that, the next board will, the next board there. This is projected 20-year plan. And so there's gonna be several boards look at this development and have to make decisions to try to keep it. You also have a family that has stipulations into this zoning to not allow things like liquor stores up there. They have certain things in this plan that they're not gonna allow stuff that Christian families wouldn't want around them. The sad part is, if this board turns this down, that somebody can buy this land and they can already do what it's currently zoned for, which is 180 acres of commercial and 200 acres of residential. And so I want everybody to understand that these petitions that say, we don't want this, they don't say what they do want there. But I can tell you this, the majority of people in Hickory With want a state housing up there. They want everybody to have 5 acres, where the residential could be 4.4 houses per acre on that 200 acres, which is 1,000 houses, and 180 acres of commercial. There's 2 miles of frontage up there right now, and that's a little over a mile on 64, and that's down Tullahoma and back up 196. There's another approximately a mile that could be commercial frontage. So just because people sign a petition and this goes away, if it went away, that don't mean nothing's going to be built there. It means that it can still be built there without any negotiation. 180 acres of commercial and 200 acres of residential, because that property is already zoned that way. They're asking for a down zoning to get rid of 140 acres of commercial and turn that into residential. That's my statement.
I got a question, I got a
Mr.
comment.
Kate?
On Mr. Ed. What all are you allowed, if this stayed the way it is, 2 miles of commercial, what all does B2 cover?
B2 is our most intensive commercial district. It's just below the industrial. So you're talking about
Car
all
lot.
of your retail, that could be gas stations, you're talking about used car lots, you're talking about hotels, those are your typical ones. All the uses that you see in Oakland proper right now, you know, as you drive down the roads, all of those could be uses as well, except the industrial, in the industrial portion we have. So it's our most intensive commercial district.
So we can just about put anything up there, on that,
You have
on the
a
road
wide
frontage,
range, and it's
on the
intended
road
to be
frontage.
that way, yes.
So they're wanting to put the industrial in the center, right? Away from the highway?
They're wanting to put in the southeast corner off of 196. The reason it's called industrial is because it's gonna be mini warehouses. It's gonna be primarily used for the
Storage,
residents.
right.
Yes, yeah.
I understood that
We wanted to
part.
have that in the most applicable zone that addresses that, because we do not allow mini storage in our B2 zone.
Right.
Is the industrial. So that's why they use the industrial zone.
Okay, but they're legal on that.
If you approve the planned development, yes, that would be. Now, the key is that has to be that particular use. The difference between a typical rezone and a planned development is that what is specified, the uses that are there, the development standards, how the buildings will have to be built, that is how it has to be built. The typical rezone, you're allowed to have all the uses, and then you conform at the time of development, which we do have design standards, but they are far exceeding our design standards with what they're proposing.
So I'm for even suggesting downsizing that thing down to residential. That's doing a town a favor.
You're actually, in this particular development, the residential and commercial uses, you are able to dictate what the houses will be like.
Right.
They're proposing 4 different housing styles. So that is, if I recall right, it's colonial, craftsman, Tudor, and I'm trying to think of the last one. So,
He said,
yeah, but they're proposing, they have to have those 4 housing styles. And part of one of the conditions for the planned development is they've already proposed what it would look like and have the specifications. They need to still come back and provide more detailed residential and a commercial pattern look. So the difference between this project and a traditional one would be, you know exactly what the building's gonna look like.
right.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay.
Ed, may I ask you expand on that? If this plan is adopted by ordinance, any change in the future has to come back through the same process.
That's
Right.
correct.
That's negotiable, right?
Well, that is up to the board at the time to negotiate, yes, yeah. The difference on this particular project too is that they also are gonna have a homeowners association.
Right.
So let's say 5 years from now, they break off a piece and they decide, I wanna rezone. Well, they still have another layer that they have to go through. The homeowners association can say no to it and enforce it no matter what we do.
Right.
And that is gonna correspond to what they're proposing. So they have actually 2 review layers in this particular project.
So am I to listen to this? I've heard the, Doug Swank, he speaks very well, but he's a salesman. Okay, he's trying to sell us a product, and we're here to buy a product or not buy it. He's good. I like his development that he has right next to my house. But I live in that neighborhood, okay? And I have to do what the people of that neighborhood and Oakland hired me to do. I don't get to make the decision on my own. I have to listen to my constituents, okay? And if they're not happy with it, they're not gonna be happy with me. There's an election coming up, okay? And some people gotta voice their opinion, and some people aren't going to. Some people are gonna speak up and some won't. Like I said, there's some good parts of this, but there's not a lot of good reasons for it, okay? We're not having developments in here willy-nilly. We go through your process in detail all the time. This process supposedly was in the workings for 30 years. Okay, I've lived here 20 years, and this is the first time within the last 2 months I've heard about this. Well, where have I been? Or what I should say is, where's that project been? I'm not saying it's been snuck in or anything, but we should have had meetings on this for years before we go over there and start changing things and throwing in developments and changing from R1 to R2 or B1 to B2. There needs to be more information to the people, and there isn't. 2 meetings over at Hickory Width Church? No, that's not enough. Thank
This
you.
is an opportunity.
All right. I don't need that, please.
So the only opportunity we have to have that public hearing is to pass this tonight. And if we do pass this tonight, there will be a public hearing, and that's our opportunity to let everybody speak on it, so that's what we're looking at.
Should have had this
Okay,
a long
this-
time ago.
Okay, this is not a political issue to me.
Nobody's saying it's political.
This is a
It's
issue
residential.
of following the law and following the guidelines. And that's what we're gonna do. The guidelines now call for us to determine where we wanna approve this tonight so we can have a public hearing.
Of course.
I
That's
make,
it.
I make a motion to approve it tonight so we can have a public hearing and a second reading.
I have a motion for Mr. Case. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. Sutton. All in favor? Any opposed?
Can I have a roll call?
Yes, you can. Roll call vote, Ms. Yvonne. Mr. Case.
Yes.
Mr. Duncan.
Yay.
Mr. Sutton.
Yes.
Mr. Fisher.
No.
Passes 3-1. We will have a public hearing on it the 15th of November at at 7 p.m., and we will determine the site and get it out as quickly as possible that will hold the crowd. Moving on. Ordinance 2222, an ordinance to rezone 7.64 acres of West Highway 194 and north of Link View Drive from Neighborhood Commercial District B1 to low-density residential R1, establishing a public hearing date. Do I have a motion to hear?
So moved.
I have a motion for Mr. Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. Cates. Mr. Johnson.
I think the board is aware that years ago, the planning commission zoned property fronting along 194 to B1 neighborhood commercial. There's a separate development making its way through the process, but this is a single site which has been purchased or is being purchased by one individual to build one home, but they have requested rezoning from B1 to R1. This was approved unanimously, I believe, by the planning commission.
It was. It was used if they, when they sell that second house off of it, they'll probably have to put a different driveway. Is that the way it was?
If they wanna put another house, they'll have to come back and plat.
Right, because you only allow one home on a lot.
On a parcel, yes.
I make a motion to pass it.
I have a motion for Mr. Cates to pass. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move to consideration of resolutions. A, Resolution 22-141, a resolution establishing a 90-day lot restriction period for new subdivision plats. Do I have a motion to hear?
Motion.
I have a motion for Mr. Fisher. Mr. Johnson.
This proposed resolution was discussed at your work session back in August, I believe it was, when we had the presentation on the wastewater treatment plant capacity. As the mayor indicated with the title, this is a 90-day suspension for new subdivision plats while we go through the process of completing the Phase 1 renovations to the wastewater plant and doing some testing or procedure to get a better handle on our capacity on our flow.
Does that cover weekend work?
No, this had nothing to do with that.
I'm asking you, how can you do one without doing the other? How can you stop somebody and let them build them hard as they can on a weekend?
No, no, sir.
I understand what you're saying. It's a 90-day freeze on all new ones,
Right.
but yet you're gonna still let them build on weekend.
No, the current ordinance says there's to be no construction on Saturdays, on weekends.
Are we forcing that now?
We are when I get calls.
I don't have a problem with this as long as they get the same chance to have an indemnification, that if they agree not to hook to our sewage until our plan is complete, then I don't have a problem with it. But
This doesn't even go that far. This is just a 90-day suspension on new plants.
Of everything.
If somebody comes up here tomorrow with a new one.
What you're discussing would be a second, if there were such thing as second. This is strictly a.
But they can still continue to work if they sign that, if they agree to that they can still continue to work.
They just taking a chance, right? They taking a chance on losing that money if it don't
Okay.
sell.
Mr. Cates,
I'm sorry.
you did fine, no problem. Mr. Dunn, you want to explain this, Mr. Ed, and get us kind of straightened out?
We're talking two different things. So this is a 90-day lot restriction. This would be for new developments coming in. If somebody wanted to submit a 10-lot subdivision tomorrow, and this was passed, I would say we would have to wait until the February planning commission meeting. Or, and I've been working with Attorney Minor, I have a form now, indemnification form. If they want to fill that out where it specifies, and it says that if you want to move forward, at your financial risk, you indemnify the city. If you sign that form, then I'll put it on the agenda and we will not withhold that. So I have already started that process. It's not part of the resolution because we felt that it needed to be separate instead of being part of it. But we do have a form.
So if this passes, then they could still continue to work if they come in and sign an indemnification.
They can continue through the process, yes, yes. Because they're basically stating that I'm aware of the situation, and then after the 90 days, we will come back to you and give you a progress report and say, out of that 1,900 lots that are still in question, we may be able to release X number, or we may seek more time and have that discussion with you.
You know what my big concern is, right? That we're fixing to spend $17 million on a wastewater treatment plant. We're 200, according to Mr. Coker's report, 220,000 gallons a day under capacity for the last month, which at our census at 2.2 houses, members per house, that would be 1,000 houses that we've got availability for right now. We've already said we got 100 and something being built now and 362 or 92 in the pipeline. So we still have capacity past that. And my question is, if somebody starts tomorrow on developing that plat, how long do they have before they'll put a house on it? And when is our target date to have our new plant done? And what I don't want to do is cost the taxpayers, the whole time this has come up, I don't want to make them have to pay more because we did less. And so the only thing that's going to pay that bill, because these questions have been asked on social media, how's the town going to pay for that sewage expansion? That's been asked. Well, I attended a seminar, myself, Mr. Cates, Mr. Johnson, that told us how that was going to be paid for. The state law says it's got to fund itself. So the only way to pay for sewage improvements is on your sewage bill. Now, how should that go? Well, there's 3 avenues right there. You've got a rate that we allow for base, an amount of sewage, right? We allow them on I don't know what it is, but how many gallons for the base rate. Let's say that may be 30,000 gallons we allow you to pump into our waste. The surrounding towns, we were high on that. So we may lower that to 20,000 before you start paying over. And of course, we've got a base rate that everybody pays, and then we have a usage rate if you go over that base. So it's a lot of things to look at how that's going to get paid. I estimated it on my numbers, $8 to $10 for a family of 4, and less on usage if you're single or a family of 2, because you wouldn't use as much or sewage capacity.
And that's per month.
That's per month. That's right.
Mr. Sutton, one other revenue source, we have a tap fee on all new residential development, and that goes towards the plant or debt service on the plant, and that's paid at the time of the building permit. So you've got that money as well.
Yeah. So we're going to have to figure that out. But the answer is the people that use the sewage are going to pay for the upgrade. That's the answer.
Well, we just raised that tap fee, didn't we?
Yes, you did, a couple of months ago. Mr. Mayor Mack?
Yes.
You made a couple of comments, questions, and I'll try to answer some of them. It's my understanding that if a developer brought in a subdivision plat next week, and it went through the process, was approved, it will be roughly 9 months before he can start construction of a home. It's gotta go through the preliminary plat approval, it's gotta go through the construction drawings, final plat, and you've gotta have all the infrastructure improvements done. So you're looking at approximately 9 months before they start construction, and then however long it takes to build the home before it ever goes on the system. The other point that I would make, and we'll be getting an update to the board probably after the holidays, but right now, we will start construction in the summer of next year, 2023, and the plant will be online in the spring of 2025. Now, as we've talked, and the mayor pointed out the other day, when we get the 2 new basins online, that will increase our capacity to 2 million when we take the existing plant count for renovation. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, and the board's going to be spending we had a very dry month. And I think one of the advantages to that gave us a very good number on our flow. The downside is, we all know, our wet weather flow far exceeds that. And so we have to balance that. But based on the dry weather flow, I think our numbers are pretty good.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because this had come up before when I said we need to hire somebody to find out where our stormwater's getting into our wastewater treatment. We're treating this water for nothing. And then it was said, well, don't know about that because our ammonia violations were up when the stormwater went down. The stormwater may have been helping us to dilute it. But now without all that rain, now we're sitting here with our ammonia violations dropping. So it must not have been the stormwater in the rain that was deleting that. It must have been something else. So I'm not a sewage expert. I'm not. But I can tell you that that's the scenario this conversation has went. Okay, we need to get that stormwater out of our wastewater plant. We shouldn't. It's putting us over capacity. I don't know about that. That stormwater, we're having more ammonia. I think it was helping dilute the ammonia and helping us there. And now we don't have that rain and our ammonia violations are down. So I'm just trying to understand it all. But if that's the case, if it's been dry and we don't have stormwater, then now we're back to saying, let's find out where that stormwater's getting in and let's quit letting that get us to capacity because we do not have to treat that.
Two things I make. One is, I think our new plant operator, our new director, is doing a very good job of trying to operate the plant for maximum capacity and maximum compliance with the rules. And we've talked about adding the, let's talk about adding ammonium nitrate or something, what is it?
Oh, it's just a chemical, a biocatalyst to help the ammonia levels.
So we're looking at that. The other thing, and I don't want to go into it tonight, but stormwater remediation of the lines is extremely expensive. And almost any engineer will tell you the cost-benefit analysis is questionable. Because you will spend a lot of, unless you know where you have a specific serious problem, you will spend a lot of money to reduce your infill, your I&I. It's a difficult thing to address, and I would defer to Blake.
Yeah, and if I may, when Harvey was here, they did a smoke test to try and locate sources of I&I in a particular area where we're having higher flows in our lift stations. What they found was that 99% of them were people, their clean out caps were off. They found, I want to say like 2 or 3 instances where the actual system, the manholes, the collection pipes, had issues with them. I wholeheartedly agree with Jay. You know, just compared to other municipalities, our I&I problem is it's negligible. When some of these systems are 60% I&I, that's.
Well, I would believe that, but Mr. Johnson just got through telling me that the reason for this is we had dry months. Yeah, I'm tickled to death that we're 220,000 gallons a day under capacity. I'm happy about that. But then he says, remember, it's got a dry, we've had a dry season, so it don't affect us. So it does matter.
I'm happy about it too, but I do think you've got to look at the total picture.
And if I may, that's part of the reason why we're recommending 90 days, because we're gonna get into the wet season. We're gonna see how the plant reacts to that. This month, we have no ammonia violations. Dry weather, cool weather has helped us. Like Jay said, we've really been working to try and maximize and optimize the process to get that ammonia to stop being an issue. And we're succeeding, but without the time to see what it does through the winter, you know, I haven't been here long enough to know. And every plant behaves a little bit differently. It's a complex process, and the weather does affect it.
I brought this up once before, and I'd like to make a comment again. We have that extra lagoon over there, right?
Yes.
People don't realize that we can pump out 3 million gallon per day, right? We're capable of.
We are allowed to
Right, 3
put
million.
that much
So
into
what is gonna happen down the road, and I don't want somebody to come up 5 years ago and say, well, that board didn't plan for it. what's gonna happen when we get all this going and we reach that 3 million gallon a day pumping to where we're pumping now? What do we do then? Instead of waiting down 5 more years, I'd like to hear somebody explain that to me.
As I understand it, and correct me if I mistake this, our discharge to the river is 6 million gallons a day. The 3 million gallons a day is the capacity, the capability of our existing outfall line.
I thought we couldn't pump at 3 in the river without doing something else.
What's our permit?
I don't wanna say you're wrong, but I do believe it is, we're only allowed
3.
3.
That's
So
what I
even
thought.
When we upgrade the plant, we will be at the max allocation that we have to discharge to the river.
So what do we do then? What's the plan after that?
That is a $1 million question, because the state either has to allow us more, which it's my understanding that all the allocations for the Lusachi have been made.
I understand we have one more
In a
limit.
very
Now,
low.
I may be wrong on 6 million, but I understand we've got one more. But the limitation, the physical limitation is the outfall line.
And that certainly is a limitation.
But, Mr. Cates, your question is accurate in the sense that in the next X number of years, when we reach that limit, whatever it is.
But we need to plan that now. Don't wait till it gets like we did this, because we were accused of causing this problem, and we didn't. We asked questions in 2017 with several different people. We were sure that was okay on that.
Okay. What the mayor and I, Blake, others, Ed, we've participated in some meetings with TDEC and surrounding cities looking at options. Now, nothing's been decided, nothing's been particularly identified, but yes, Oakland, Somerville, Brownsville, the cities in Tipton County, we're all looking at this as to what some options might be. If you'll recall, the new wastewater treatment plant for the mega site is going, the outfall is the Mississippi River.
I'd just like to see some kind of plan put in place before all of this takes place, and not have to go, somebody not have to go through what we did with finger pointing that you knew it and didn't do nothing about it down the road.
I think, Mr. Cates, that what Mr. Johnson's telling you is we're trying to do that. We're going to every meeting we can go to. We're asking the state for all the help we can get. This is not just an Oakland problem.
No, I know it's not.
It's a West Tennessee problem. And to quote one of the state of Tennessee officials, Mayor Brown, Oakland's in better shape than the vast majority of towns. So it is a major problem, and you are correct, it is.
I mean, I know we're okay right now, and maybe the foresee future, but somewhere down the road, it's gonna change.
Mr. Herberson, that's over that HTL, which is the leading economic development for Blue Oval City, said that Oakland at the present time was the only town that was prepared on infrastructure to capitalize on the growth.
But nobody can predict what's gonna happen in 10 years. We can
I
try to keep
understand that.
studying it, we can try to keep studying it, and you're correct, we need to be prepared.
But
I
I guess
agree.
the question is, will that 16-inch line that we just put in from the wastewater plant, the force main from the wastewater plant to the golf course, will that handle 3 million gallons a day?
Are you speaking of the one that goes to the river, or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It will take some modifications to our effluent pumps, the pumps that force it out.
Force it
there.
out.
Bigger
And,
pumps,
Sir?
bigger pumps.
Yes, sir, and, it's such a long line that the engineers have to find the sweet spot, because if you get too small of a pump or too large of a pump running underloaded, it has some issues there. But that, I spoke with them, the last time I spoke with the engineer, that's what they were working on. was trying to
That's
find-
part of our current project design.
It was part of their submission in the preliminary plans to the state. That was one thing they were having issues with, was finding the right pump size and number of pumps to pump efficiently out in that size line, over that distance.
since we're on this subject, the bar screen, that completion, we was anticipating the 24th.
Yes, sir.
How's that going?
I just got an email today that it'll actually be the 25th, so it'll be Tuesday, they'll get there.
Okay, thank you, Black.
Is
And
that
the other thing is I want to understand this better. So what we're working on right now on the remodification, phase 1 is what it was called, I believe, to us. Is that, in the grand scheme of things, phase 1 of the total renovation or phase 1 of the upgrade to the old plant? But we're upgrading the old plant to accept the new plant, right?
In ways, yes, so phase 1 is simply the new bar screen.
And the aerators, was that part of it?
That, you could, yes, that was part of what we did in spring. And the next, I don't know if phase 2 is the correct term, but then they will put in the 2 new basins, which will give us 2 million gallons of capacity. And the last thing they're gonna do is retrofit the existing plant.
Right, so that's the point I was making though, is there's a lot of people that say we ain't done anything. And I just really wanted to make the point tonight that phase 1 is almost complete and moving into phase 2 on the new renovation.
Right, we're just
So it ain't like nothing's been done, and this was started in 2020 on the design for
Late,
phase 1?
well, the design actually started in early 2021.
The
We hired him in
engineer
2020, yeah,
Hired the engineer to start it in 2020.
yes.
And phase 1 is almost complete, because I'm hearing every day that we've done nothing about that.
Me too.
I hear it every day, but I guess now everybody knows that phase 1's almost complete, ready to move into phase 2.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Mr.
One,
Johnson.
one other subject, just to make the board aware, I sent you an email, I think, about this. Our, what's called NPDES permit, that gives us authority to discharge the Hatch River, expires in December. Blake and our engineers applied for a renewal of that permit back in June or July. We have received word that we will get a draft permit, but we're on schedule to get our permit renewed by the end of the year. Do you have an update on that?
Yes, we've received the draft permit, nothing much has changed on it. They put 1 monthly average parameter for our residual chlorine, which will be of no effect to us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Blake, appreciate you.
Have a motion? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution? 22-142.
So moved.
141.
140? 141, I
141.
apologize. Okay, have a motion, Mr. Duncan, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Sutton, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, move in. Resolution 22-142, approving a subdivision development agreement for Mayvine Valley. Do I have a motion to hear?
Make a motion here.
Have a motion, Mr. Case. Mr. Johnson?
This is the development agreement, subdivision development contract for Mayvine Valley. And the reason, one of the reasons it's on the agenda, the name has been changed. The developer will be Bluff City Development LLC. And Mr. Minor's gone through all of that.
Yes, it's, the only reason that this is coming back before the board is that this is not a transfer to a new company, that is comprised of different individuals. This is Mr. Ritchie's, company, but it's just a different LLC. So it's just really form over substance.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, Mr. Sutton, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Gates seconds, all in favor? Any opposed? We're tabling C. Moving down to D, resolution 22-144, a resolution authorizing agreement addendum for CDP LC for ARP funds, allocation from Fayette County.
Motion.
Motion here.
Motion here.
Have a motion, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Johnson.
Gentlemen on the podium tonight was
Just a
a,
minute, just a minute. I don't know who that is, but I wish you would take it out in the hallway or cut it off, please.
Oh, I didn't cut mine off.
Now, Mr. Johnson, go ahead.
as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we're asking to substitute a new resolution for 22-144. If the board will allow me for a minute, we're getting the American Rescue Plan monies, and there are three standalone pools of money. We're getting $2,476,000 direct from the federal government through the state. That's a direct allocation. We're getting a little over $1 million from the state as an allocation to Oakland as we operate a water and wastewater system. And we have $593,000 approximately that the county has allocated to Oakland for water system improvements. This resolution is an agreement to retain Community Development Partners, LLC, and this authorizes the mayor to submit the proposed grant application to TDEC for these monies. It also recognizes that the city is responsible for up to 35% local funds match on these projects. On the water line project, because that's a joint venture with the county, there's a 5% discount, things like that. That's what's going on here. And this also designates our finance director, Laura Hodges, as the financial officer for the town for this money. The third page of what the handout, which was on the table, is a chart that I put together after talking to Matty Cushman with CDP. And it illustrates what our allocation is, what CDP's fee is as a percentage of that allocation, and you'll notice they are not charging us for the money from the county. And they're charging us 2.2% on the direct, which makes a total of their fee of 2.82% of our total allocation. The program allows for up to 6% to go to administrative fees, and we're going to be at slightly less than half of that. I know this is a lot of information, but this is an extremely complicated, convoluted program. The last page, now, CD put this together, but that outlines the money we're receiving and what we have to do with it. And there is a fourth round that will take place in early or sometime in 2023, but we're not dealing with that yet. I'll be glad to answer any questions if I can.
Motion.
Have a motion for Mr. Fisher. Have a second?
I guess I wanted to discuss before I got involved in the vote of it. I had
All right.
a few more questions, and
Go ahead.
I guess it sounds kind of like we've got a sense of urgency about this, and I guess that's why my mind's spinning. Because when we amended the agenda, we automatically set a meeting for these funds for the 31st on Halloween, okay? So I guess I was wanting to know what are we in a hurry about?
The application deadline is November 1st for the TDEC.
Now you know why we're in a hurry.
Well, that's right. I deserve to know.
And yes,
you do.
And on this, well, I'll use this page.
So then I guess I wonder why we've waited so late.
Because we're just getting all of this information together. If you look at this page, the November 1st deadline is for the application to expend these monies. The October 31st meeting is the engineering agreements for these monies. That's, but it's a November 1st. Ms. Cushman and I have been talking several times a week for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I really wish, this meeting, the 20th, it's late in the month, and I wish it had been last week, give us a little bit more time, but that's how the calendar fell. I did not have all of this information at your September meeting, I just didn't have it.
What's your opinion on this, Mr. Mayor?
I think that the money is there. I think that the town needs to move forward with these resolutions. I think they're worded as good as you could possibly word resolutions. It addresses all of the funds. There are deadlines involved. I'm enthusiastic for it.
And you're saying that this is not out of the norm to hire somebody to take care of this kind of stuff?
No, and I've looked at Ms. Cushman's fees, and of course I represent other towns as well. I think that Ms. Cushman's fees are extremely competitive.
I second Mr. Fisher's motion.
That's what Mr., he was waiting on the money, wasn't it?
Oh, my God.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Ordinance 22-146, a resolution approving a ball field fence bid award for Cypress Creek Park.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Did I miss one?
Yeah, it's duplication, but 22-145 is
Okay.
the same thing but different language.
Okay, so I need a motion to
yeah.
hear resolution 22-145.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Case. All right, Mr. Johnson.
If you look down to paragraph 2, about 2/3 of the way down, it provides that the money for Fayette County, we're accepting all responsibility related to the application process, administration, reporting, and contractual agreements necessary to carry out the program.
Is there no difference between this one and the other one?
That paragraph right there,
Just a word.
Well, I didn't see the 2.4. Oh, there, it is on the back page.
Yeah.
But it's not on the,
yeah, this resolution was prepared specifically related to the monies coming from the county and the state.
but I saw the 2.476 on the back, which we've already received 1.2 and some change on that one, right?
Yes, sir.
With the other half coming
Next week,
next month.
or next month, I'm sorry.
Okay, next month. So that's there, but it wasn't on the front of this resolution, so that's okay?
Yeah.
We don't need to do anything there?
Resolution does not address the federal money.
Okay. Motion to approve?
Have a motion to approve, have a motion and a second.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Sutton, second, Mr. Cates, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, yeah, do that. All right, moving on to 22-146, a resolution approving a ball field fence bid award for Cypress Creek Park. Motion to hear?
So moved.
Have a motion, Mr. Cates, Mr. J, or we want a park director to present it?
I'll start it.
Okay,
This is to relocate part of the existing fence to add existing fence for depth. We received 2 bids. Low bid is from West 10 Fence Company of Jackson, Tennessee, in the amount of $14,180, and that is within budget.
Is that just for a partial fence, or is that a new fence for the whole field?
It is a relocation of some of the existing fence and some new fence.
How much new fence are we talking about?
I don't remember, Gary, I don't remember the distance.
80 feet of new fence and relocation of 500 feet.
Oh, okay.
So basically, the home run fence is being moved outward to make it a more realistic home run fence. Right now, it's 270 feet. We're gonna move it down to approximately 300 feet. So by doing that, the foul lines or fences are short, and that's where the 80 feet of new fence will be coming in.
And this also provides for the new cap on the fencing.
And this is what we've had the lights designed for as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve?
have a motion, Mr. Sutton, approve, have a second.
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Case. All in favor?
Aye.
I would also like, gentlemen, to add that in the next near future, I'm gonna ask Mr. Johnson to bring resolution to us to rename that park, and I'd like you to consider that. I want to rename the park, if with your permission and vote, to Cypress Creek Veterans Park. I think that that would be an appropriate name for that park. Our veterans have spent a lot of time working in that area. They run the concession for us, and I think it would be a great way to honor the veterans. So we'll ask you to consider that in the future meeting. Moving on. Resolution 22-147, authorizing purchase of .52 wetland mitigation credit from the West Tennessee Wetlands Mitigation Bank. Oakland Sports Park is the total amount of $20,080 payable from the Park Sales Tax Fund. Motion to hear.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Cage. Mr. Johnson.
As part of the development of Phase 1, approximately 0.26 acres of existing wetlands will be impacted. As you're all aware, we've gone through all of the ARAP permit process, and we have received the ARAP, that's Aquatic Resources Alteration Permit. By impacting, negative impact to existing wetlands, you have to offset that at a 2-to-1 ratio. So we will purchase, by this resolution, 0.52 acres credit in the West Tennessee Wetland Mitigation Bank. And you have a letter from the Wetlands Mitigation Bank, and you also have a copy of the invoice.
I've read all that, but I still don't fully understand why we have to buy that, if we already own it, right?
No, what we own, we're impacting.
Okay.
And so therefore, we have to offset it somewhere else.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Mr. Sutton to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 22-148, a resolution authorizing a bid award for fiscal year 2023 street paving project, bid package number 1. Motion to hear.
Motion here.
Have a motion from Mr. Case. Mr. Johnson.
We opened bids last week on street paving. We received 2 bids, one from Standard Construction of Germantown, one from Fowler Paving of Somerville. Standard was low, both on the base bid and with the add alternate. If the board approves base bid plus alternate number 1, the total price is $619,547.40. That is within, it's slightly below the engineer's estimate for the project. And the final page was our budget allocation for street paving, and this project would be within those funds. And just for the record, we will do a second street paving bid package probably in March, and it would be in the $200,000 to $250,000 range.
Could I ask when we could get a copy from somebody on the streets that's gonna be paved?
I provided that a couple of months ago when we authorized. I'll be glad to get you another one. Yes, sir. When these streets were authorized, you got a listing of all the
Okay,
streets.
last year.
No,
Back in the spring?
no, July or August. I'll get you one. I'll get you one.
I don't remember seeing it.
I've got a question, and I just curious, and I realize that we're at a disadvantage in this department right now, so I know you're probably not gonna be able to answer this tonight, but it looks like we're not paving as much here with the amount of money we're spending because of fuel prices being up and different things, but, and I know that, I mean, we're sitting here, we don't allow paving below 50 degrees or 53 degrees, what's the temperature?
I think it's a little lower than that,
Over
but
that, I think it's like 46.
I thought we changed that.
Yeah, it's something in rising, that's for sure. But what I'm saying is it's gonna be November before this ever gets lit. So when is this gonna be done? And if we authorize and sign this contract with them, could fuel drops, how much could we get done with the same money? if we waited on this contract? And, or do we get less done because fuel went up? You know, does this read with any fuel surcharges on the contract, or?
This is a unit price, base bid.
Is any of this recycled, or is it all virgin blacktop?
This come up in budgeting, we asked about that, and
Yeah.
we said, oh, we'll have the opportunity when it comes up to debate that.
Yeah,
But
yes.
I don't wanna, if we could wait, I mean, I know we've got some stuff that needs paving, I'm well aware of that. But spending over $500,000 on Mebane Road, Chickasaw, Trace, and Cross Creek, that seems like we're not getting a lot done right there, because Mebane, we don't have but where is that? That's, how many feet is that?
6,050 feet.
Where we got 6,000?
Is the chip shoulders. Now, I don't know about, we need to check that. Is that 666 tons? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
So I don't know how that measures. The chip shoulders is showing 6,000.
Chickasaw Trace is only 139 linear feet, is it? Or is that
Just
tonnage? That's tonnage.
That's just the one section. I believe that's tonnage. Mr. Vice Mayor, the other point, I don't think it's a huge amount of money, but in several of these streets, there's base repair also before the bidding's done.
But the point I'm making is, here we are, it's November, and we don't do it below 40-something degrees and rising, so how much time have we got to get this done before spring?
The contract wording, and I don't have it in front of me, the contract wording is 90 days of weather where they can work. Now, that may not be the legal,
And my other concern is this, the company that's got this low bid,
we had problems with.
gosh almighty, they did the 194 project, y'all, and left that thing in a mess all winter, in a terrible mess, and that stuff was caving off where they just got through with it. I mean, if y'all know where I'm talking about, like going to the golf course?
Yeah.
If you'll recall, they were the firm that we had a problem with a year and a half ago down in the gardens of Hidden Springs, the waters of Hidden Springs.
That's my problem, guys. I mean, I'm pretty upfront. I don't hide much. But I've got a problem with it. They made a freaking mess. And then we've had problems with them in the past. Now, I understand they're $20,000 below. I guess that's about the number, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, but yes.
20,000.
But I mean, I don't see a sense of urgency with this when we're not gonna have a lot of weather they can pave in, and then they're gonna leave it in that mess that they left. And it was a bigger mess when they got through than it was when they started. And so I'm just a little leery of it, guys.
I never did get an answer.
On what, I'm sorry?
Is they gonna be partial recycle, or is it all new asphalt?
Sir, I don't see anything that says it's recycled.
I thought we discussed this a couple of times before, that if we wanted to bid it out that used that recycle, because we could do more streets with the same money if we used part of the recycle, what is it, 20%, 15%?
Well, I can tell you this, you wouldn't have had but one bid on this project if you'd have done it that way. Because Fowler don't use recycle.
Yeah, Fowler does not do recycled asphalt.
And so you get into that. And so I'm not.
We sent bids out to 4. One company didn't respond. One company responded they were not going to bid because of their current workload. So we only got 2 bids.
What's our contract? When would their work day be? When could they start? If we did that?
They have to get the bonds to us and the mayor sign the contract. I would, and this is an estimate, but I would say the notice to proceed be roughly November 1st. Give them 10 days or so.
I ain't never seen government work that fast.
Well, that isn't government. That would be them getting the performance bond. Both bidders know that this is being discussed tonight. But I can assure you, to your point, once we get the performance bonds with the contract, the mayor will sign them. The turnaround on our end will be quick. Mayor?
I'm kind of leaning toward what Mr. Sutton said here. I don't see an urgency here. I'm not so sure we shouldn't wait. Now, if there's an urgency, tell me, sir.
We got some bad roads, but if I could say this, look at the bad roads and 90% of them standard done.
90% of them is what?
Standard did 'em.
Done those.
Now, Mayor, what we'll have to do, if the board chooses so, we'll need to reject the bids and rebid it. We cannot hold these bids till
Well, I
spring.
understand that.
Okay,
And I'm not opposed to that,
I'm-
but
I'm
I'm
just-
not voting, these guys vote. I'm not opposed to waiting to waiting to spring.
I just don't know how many days we got left to pave, and then if they tear it all up like they did out there, it's gonna be a freaking mess until March or April.
Dennis, how much are we, I say we, the town is patching now?
We passed eight tons this past month, just with our little small pothole patches.
Can you just estimate roughly how many more you'd like to do that? I know you can't exact figure, but just something in the ballpark.
We could do about that much a month with the people we have and the equipment we have.
Could we go that route and hold out to spring?
We can't do the large areas.
No, I understand that. But the what I call the tire busters, you could probably fix.
The concern I'm hearing, I heard from you that standard is not done.
They're fixing to shut down in about 2 months till next year. This every year thing.
They do?
they shut down for January, they do.
They do.
I just don't understand why we didn't get more bids, and I don't understand why we just can't use some recycle with that. That's got me puzzled.
Well, we can't make them bid, Mr.
I know,
They
I
need to bid. If they
understand
don't
it.
bid, they don't bid.
I know $600,000 is a lot of money to us, to the town of Oakland, but to a contractor working with TDOT and all, $600,000 is a very small project.
I understand
We're
that.
just, we're not, APAC and LoJack and some of the bigger companies are not going to bid city streets.
So they bid a tonnage bid, did you say?
Yes, it's a quantity.
So what's the state's contract? Because we can piggyback off the state or the county, either one, so what's their contract?
I'd
cost?
have to ask, I don't know.
I vote to table this then, until, the special call meeting on the 31st.
Okay. Have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Moving on. Resolution 22-149, authorizing credit cards for various department directors of the town. Motion to hear.
So moved.
Have a motion from Mr. Sutton. Mr. J.
About 2 years ago, the board authorized a town credit card, and it's my name is on that credit card, Town of Oakland. As you're all aware, we use that credit card throughout the city. And for example, the invoice or the information on the agenda tonight that you have in your packet, 78% of the cost of that credit card were departments other than finance and administration. What we'd like to do is get a credit card for the director of the various departments. There would be a limit established. They have to follow all rules, purchasing orders, things like that. The town's purchasing policy for that card. I think it will improve some efficiencies. And there was a department director, when I was at the ICMA conference last month, I had an email from one of the directors wanting to borrow the city credit card. I had it with me. I mean, so there's instances where each department having the card would be helpful, and we can monitor it if there's any abuse.
There's also problems when they go, if they do, that some people will not accept that unless the card holder there with an ID can use it. So I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Mr. Sutton. Do I have a second? Have a second from Mr. Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on, resolution 22-150, a resolution declaring certain equipment and vehicle surplus to the town needs. This mean we're gonna clean up all that mess over there, Mr. Johnson?
Not all of it, because some of it's the police department for confiscated vehicles. Where's the assistant chief?
Have a motion here.
Motion here.
Have a motion, Mr. Gates. Johnson?
You have on your agenda packet, a listing of surplus, obsolete equipment from Public Works, Public Utilities, and the Police Department. These are city-owned vehicles. They do not include confiscated or anything like that. That's handled separately by the department.
Dispose is what I didn't like about it. I mean, are we gonna have an auction, or
Yes,
we're gonna?
yes.
Is that a public auction, or we're gonna put it on gov deals? How's this gonna go?
Our thinking was, given the age and condition of most of this, we're probably better off having a public auction. However, the jetter might be something that we could put on gov deals. There may be some individual items we could put on gov deals, if that's acceptable.
Should that be in the resolution of how it's gonna be disposed of?
Well, you can do it either way. You know, what you have to do, of course, is declare it surplus. There has to be a finding by the board that the items are surplus. The law does require that they be disposed of in a commercially reasonable manner. I think that there was a discussion several months ago about getting some things to Galloway, which of course was not. So yes, there is that obligation to dispose of the surplus in a commercially reasonable manner. If you want to describe, the board prefers to describe the manner in the resolution, you can certainly make that.
Staff is fine with a public auction.
Make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion from Mr. Fisher, second from Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 22-151, a resolution authorizing agreement with TextMyGov. Motion to hear?
Motion here.
Have a motion from Mr. Case. Mr. Johnson?
For some time, the staff's been talking to this firm out of Utah, where we can set up mass emailing and mass text to people that sign up for it. This is not a blast to anybody. It's people that sign up for it. But we could use this, let's say there's a broken water main in Northwood Subdivision. There's gonna be low water pressure. We could do a blast email to that neighborhood, the people that signed up. Let's say there's an auto accident on 194 North. We could say 194 North is closed. Please find alternate routes. We could use it for weather, ice storms. Tornadoes. This would not be used for ordinary communication necessarily, or anything like that. I did not put it in the resolution, we can come back with that, but what we're looking at is, for example, the city manager, the police chief, fire chief, public works director, there would be a limited group that would be authorized to send out the text.
I think it would help the communication.
Is that the one that's 3,800?
It's $3,800 a year. And what they're doing, one of the reasons that brought this to the forefront, they had a $1,900 setup fee, and they're doing a waiver where we wouldn't have to pay that. So this actually, and this was in the budget. I don't think we talked about it much back in May and June.
But it was budgeted.
It was budgeted.
I make the motion with passion.
Have a motion from Mr. Cates, have a second.
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that takes care of resolutions, business items. Amending the citizens' comment agenda by revising wording and procedures. Mr. Johnson?
Vice Mayor Sutton has asked if we look at revising the wording. I did a very quick informal survey of several cities, and it was all over the board, if you will. Franklin's wording is identical to Oakland's, but they do allow comments to be emailed into the town recorder on the day of the meeting. Brentwood has something similar. Most cities just don't have anything on their agenda at all. So I really think however the board wants to reword it, we can do. If you want to reword it.
Well, I think the only rewording is the citizens would get up here and they would talk about an issue, and we would never know how that turned out, because nobody could comment to them and tell them what they were gonna do. And then so you never know if anything was done about their problem.
They have to wait a whole month before it can even be discussed, and we have to put it back on the agenda to discuss it then.
So, I mean, however it could be discussed, I mean, if we can answer them like we did tonight, I mean, we answered them tonight if they had something.
We take out one sentence, if that's what the board wants to do. Take out, shall make no decision or consideration, take that sentence out.
Well, I think if somebody takes the time out of their life to come up here and talk about something, a problem, that they ought to hear something about it, and if we don't know an answer, then we will get back to you, you know? But just letting them get up here and talk and nobody ever knows what happens, I mean, it's kinda crazy.
Well, I'll need a motion, Mayor, but if you
I
want.
make a motion to remove that sentence that comments cannot be addressed.
I second it.
Have a motion, Mr. Sutton, have a second, Mr. Cates, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, passes. Take care of that, Mr. Johnson.
Michelle?
B, review of TDEC will serve letters, policy, and procedure. Mr. Johnson.
This goes back to the meeting in August as well. Currently, the utility director signs the will serve letters. You asked that we look at whether the mayor, the town manager, utility director. I did a very informal survey of some area cities, and again, it's all over the board. In several cities, it was the wastewater director. In 2 cities, it was the mayor.
If I might comment on this, I think that this is a situation where I think Mr. Johnson or myself should sign those letters after consulting with staff and making the proper decision. That's my comment.
I make a motion that we allow the mayor, the town manager, and the wastewater director to either sign the will serve letters.
Have a motion, Mr. Sutton, have a second.
Second.
Have a second, Mr. Cates, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Johnson, take care of that. Request for property tax late penalty and fees waived by Six Forks Holding LLC for tax year 2020. Mr. Johnson.
You have a letter and an agenda, a lengthy packet in your agenda packet. This out-of-town business purchased a piece of commercial property in Oakland in 2020. They say they never received the property tax bill for the subsequent year. And while they're willing to pay the property tax bill, they do not feel they should have to pay the penalty and interest.
So, can I ask what they paid for this property?
$1.25 million.
So they bought a $1.25 million piece of property and they didn't know they had to pay taxes on it. It'd be just like my water bill getting lost in the mail. I know I use water, I know I got a bill. They owe the taxes. I make a motion, we
Let me
don't
ask one
waive the
question
fees.
before we do that, please. Did they have to pay county taxes on that too?
They did it, they paid them on time.
Now I'm making
My motion's on the
motion.
table.
Motion on the table. Yes, Mr. Fisher.
Who are these people? What
They're
building is it?
a real estate investment trust. And if I may, Mayor, to respond to your point, where I'm having the problem with this, we use the same database for property tax records as the county does. If they got the county bill and paid the county tax, I don't understand. And maybe I'm just a dense person. I don't understand why they didn't get ours. And I've asked Stacy Grooms, who's our property tax clerk, to be here tonight if you have any questions. But this gentleman was turned down by the staff, he was turned down by Yvonne, he was turned down by me, and he wished to appeal it to the board.
There's a motion on the table.
Have a motion on the table.
And I second it.
I guess my statement would be, if we're taking advice from our staff, and our staff has turned him down, why are we talking about this now?
He
Wished
asked
to
for it.
appeal it.
He has a right to appeal.
He had to appeal it to the board.
I have a motion from Mr.
Second.
Sutton, have a second from Mr. Cates, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, you can tell him to pay his bill.
A little nicer though.
He's no better at paying than our citizens.
You got some nice.
I know.
All right, E, report on town employees data statistical EEO summary. Mr. J?
You have that in your packet. This is a detail of our employee base by race, sex, and residence, and it's information only.
Anybody have a question for Mr. Johnson? If not, I'm moving on.
Now, this is a snapshot, so any vacant positions are not included in the data.
Move on.
Okay, hearing no questions. Other items of business, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. You had an item on the table from your bond regarding our copiers. The police department had requested a new copier that was color, and with the relocation of building and codes, we need a copier at that location because the existing copier will remain across the street. Xerox would not simply add 2 copiers. Xerox is requiring that our entire contract be rolled over. And the cost the cost difference is only $149.88 a month. The cost difference is not bad for 2 new.
How long would the contract be though?
3 years.
What is the, how many copies are we talking about needing a color printer for?
I'm sorry?
The color printer that we need, how many copies?
How many copies?
Yeah, per month.
I would have to go back and pull each department's.
The police department made a specific request for a color copier. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that we need one at codes because it won't have planning with it,
Yeah, but we still look at overall offenses and I need the color.
Well, I mean, I don't have any problem, I'm just wondering, what's the color copier? We know we need one to go to codes, how many copies what's the police department need color copies for? I'm just trying to determine if we got a need here.
Larry?
I mean, how many color copies?
I'll have to let.
Right, wait,
There's
let me see.
Larry.
Chief, can you give us a little help here?
Yes, the reason we requested is because a situation we ran into, we had to do a photo lineup at midnight.
Ooh.
And it has to be in color. We don't have access to, certain officers don't have access to the whole building where a color copier is. So that's why we're asking for it to be placed in the general control room. And instead of the standard black and white, just make it color where we can control the number of copies. I mean, as administration.
And I understand that, but and the reason why I ask is because you're talking about $149 a month when you can go buy, if you're not gonna use it on a regular basis for a lot of things, you could buy that copier cheaper than you could rent one, $149 a month. And so if it's not gonna be used with a lot of copies all the time, you'd be better off purchasing instead of renting. That's the only point.
Well, we actually talked about that, and part of the, I'll say concern, that may be too big of a word, was the maintenance and all of that. They service these copiers as part of the contract. They were out here today. We felt like that was somewhat of an advantage. My concern goes back to Mr. Cates, that we have to roll the contract for a new 3-year agreement, as opposed to just adding some units. But there is.
That's what I don't like, is we don't get to rebid that contract
I
to
don't
see if
either.
somebody would be cheaper.
No.
And so I'll tell you what, I'll donate y'all a color printer. I've got one in my attic I'm not using. And it's full of ink. But, so if that problem arises anytime soon, until we can look at this, they can have something. I'll bring it up here. But that's, I just, I understand that that's a need, and I understand we need to have it, but to rent something that you're not gonna use on a daily basis is.
But, may I say?
Yes, ma'am.
This is a copier that is like in the, admin office. We use color copies only when we need it, and the rest of the time they're black and white.
Well,
And we are only charged by by the copy itself. The only thing that what we're doing is we are upgrading one machine from a black and white to a color, but yet we're getting another one, therefore, it's $148 difference.
But here, Miss Yvonne, and I know I'm tight, I know I am. But how did this benefit me tonight, using this color printer? I can tell you what, it was more expensive to print this than it was black and white. I can tell you that. It's just, and it's not just here. A color printer is one of the most abused things in the workplace, because it gets used when there's no need for it, and it's a waste of money. Now, there is a need. Larry needs that for a lineup at midnight. We need a color printer back there. But we don't need to pay $149 a month more if we need a copy. How many photo lineups has he done this year? You know, that's the question. And so it's
Well, I'm just saying it's an upgrade plus a copier.
well, we could get into how much money we've wasted on copy machines up here since I've been on this
Oh,
board.
Lord, don't go there.
But,
That's why I didn't want.
well, I do, because we still need to fry that fish.
Let me, you've given a suggestion, a possibility for the police department, but we're still gonna need a copier, whether it's black and white or color, we're still gonna need a copier down at Codes.
But we're extending a contract with the company for 3 years without putting it out for bid.
Well, one of the things we could do is we'll go to Best Buy and get a copier and stick it down there for now, and then rebid it all come, I think it's what, April? It's only 6 months. This contract expires.
I'm just not for rolling it over another 3 years till we get bids on it, cause
Okay,
more than,
I think we've reached a consensus here, Mr. Johnson, that you need to do something temporary, and we do not want to enter that, overroll that contract. Am I hearing that correctly from the board?
yeah, for me,
Okay, so Mr. Johnson, get with Larry, y'all do something temporary, and give us when the contract rolls over, we'll rebid it out and get you something of a permanent nature.
can y'all make it like that, Larry?
All right, any other items of business, sir?
Invoices.
No, I'm talking
No,
about that.
no.
Okay, now then, any credit applications, Ms. Vaughn?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, invoices, I need you to approve invoices. Ms. Vaughn, do you need to say anything here?
Nothing unless you have questions.
Okay, what's the invoices, please? Gentlemen?
Department heads are reviewed, they agree that we owe them. Is that correct?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve invoices, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Mr. Case,
Make a motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.
It was $78 a barrel today, I have to know. But yeah, you're right.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
How you doing, sir?
Hi, Danny.
Thank you, sir. I swore I'd never wear a tie again. Here, I put one on.
You got cold today.
You doing all right?
How you doing, man?